Welcome to 13 Keys Tracker. This has accurately predicted every single presidential election since 1984. This is a free interactive tool for predicting the winner of the 2024 U.S. presidential election based on Professor Alan Lichtman's famous 13 keys to the White House. Using his key system, the key system on your screen right now, he accurately predicted the outcome of every single presidential election since 1984. Accurately predicted them, by the way. The keys are a checklist of true and false statements, red being false and true being blue, which we're going to fill them out with those colors. So basically, true and false statements that pertain to the circumstances surrounding a presidential election. You can see where the keys currently stand based on Lichtman's most recent public comments in the key description. So basically, Lichtman, we're talking about, is a professor, and he's using this key system method, and it accurately predicted every single election since 1984. Pretty lit. I'm not gonna lie. And you can also make your own prediction by coloring the boxes, which is what we're gonna do ultimately in this video. So we have all these. We have for certain, we have likely margins, and we have lean margins. And basically, we're gonna be filling them red and blue. So we're gonna be reading the questions. There are a total of 13 keys. Each key is a question, so there's 13 questions, and we're going to be filling them blue and red. If the question is false, then we're going to be filling them in red, and they have margins, by the way, certain, likely, and lean. And if the question that we read, which is the key, if the key is true, we're going to fill that key in blue. So let's start off with key 1, and this ultimately decides the outcome of the 2024 election. So if, it says right here, by the way, if 8 or more keys are true, so basically if we fill in 8 or more keys blue, at least 8 keys are blue, then the incumbent president Joe Biden wins the election in 2024. If we fill in at least six red, which are false, then Donald Trump wins the election. So if we fill in 6 of these keys red, at least 6, at a minimum 6 red, Donald Trump wins the election. At a minimum 8 blue, Joe Biden wins the election at a minimum 8 blue. So now you basically know the rules. So if there are 8 or more keys filled in true, which is blue, the blue color, if 8 or more keys are blue, then Joe Biden wins the 2024 election. And this is accurate, by the way. He accurately predicted, but this is obviously my opinion. We're going to be filling these out with my opinion. And if 6 or more, at least 6 at minimum, are red, which is false, then Donald Trump is going to win. So let's start to fill these out. Key 1, midterm games. So basically, after the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives than after the previous midterm elections. And that is false, actually. Lichtman implied that this key is actually false after the 2022 midterm elections, because obviously the Republicans took back the House of Representatives. Specifically, we're talking about the House of Representatives. We're not talking about the Senate right now. The Senate is a different story. The Democrats actually expanded 1 seat in the Senate. So we're not talking about the Senate for key 1. We're talking about the House of Representatives. So he implied that it's false, and I actually have to agree with that. So we're going to fill in this red. So Donald Trump already has a 1-0 lead, and I think it's pretty much a likely false. So yeah, the next key, number 2, is no primary contest, meaning basically Joe Biden is not really going to have a primary contest. So, and this key is true if the incumbent party nominee wins at least 2/3 of the total delegate vote on the first ballot at the nomination convention, which is likely. Joe Biden is most likely not going to have a primary contest, meaning no one is really challenging Joe Biden. I know RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson are, and some other couple other people, but they're not really going to be all that competitive, as Joe Biden is pulling ahead of them by far. Even as he is with a low approval rating, he's still pulling against them by far. So this is true. Joe Biden has no primary contest. So this is 1 point for Joe Biden. It's pretty much likely. So we have 1 point for Biden and 1 point for Trump. And key number 3, incumbent seeking re-election. That is, in fact, true. Joe Biden is seeking re-election. I'm going to fill that actually in with a lean margin, because it's not for certain 100% that Joe Biden is going to seek re-election, as if right now he is. But he is old in age, a bit old in age, so things can happen with his health, meaning at any point of time within the next few months he could opt out because of his age. But as of right now, I'm going to fill it in lean blue. So this is another point for Joe Biden 2 for Biden, 1 for Trump so far. Incumbent Joe Biden is, in fact, seeking re-election, which is true. Another point for Joe Biden. We're going to fill that in blue. And key 4 is no third party. Now, it's not for certain that there will not be a third party. There very well can be. And if that does, in fact happen, it's going to... If the third party ends up on the Republican side, then it's going to help Joe Biden win. If the third party ends up on the Democratic side, it's going to help the Republican nominee win, which is most likely Donald Trump. So there, in fact, most likely will not be a third party. So we're going to fill that in pretty true. We're going to fill it in likely blue. No third party, so that's another point for Joe Biden. 3 for Biden and 1 for Donald Trump. And we have a few more keys left. So basically, what no third party is, a third party is a political party other than the Democratic or Republican Party, basically independent, whatever you want to call it. This key is false if a third party candidate is likely to win 5% or more of the popular vote. And Lichman did in fact say it does not look like there's going to be a major third party, which it's likely as if right now. So I'm going to fill that in likely for Joe. That's another point for Joe Biden. And then key 5, moving on to key 5, strong short-term economy. A recession is a significant, widespread, and prolonged downturn in the economic activity. A common rule of thumb is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. And basically so the economy is, he claims the economy is not in a recession during, as if right now, which is the election campaign, which you can argue both ways. You can argue that the economy is currently in a recession and that they just don't want to say it to make Joe Biden look better as a president overall. And you can argue otherwise. You can argue that it's not in a recession. It's definitely, inflation is very high still, and they're trying to make it look like it's been down, which with the Trump administration, it was way down than with Biden as of this current point. Strong short-term economy. Honestly, as of right now, I'm going to fill that in false. That's going to go in Donald Trump's favor, likely for Donald Trump. That is not true. We do not have a strong short-term economy. The short-term economy is bad because we have inflation. And the economy is not doing good. Stocks are down at an all-time low. And it's been like this ever since Joe Biden took office, pretty much. You compare this to the Trump administration. Things were doing way better. Inflation was low with Trump, way more low than with Biden, and stocks were doing way better with Trump than with Biden. So that is false. Key 5 is false. There is no short-term economy. That is false. Strong short-term economy. There is no strong short-term economy. Now, we're talking about key 6, a strong long-term economy. Now, we're not talking about a short-term economy. With key 6, we're talking about a long-term economy. Real per capita economic growth during the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous 2 terms. Now, I'm going to fill this in blue in Biden's favor. I think this is likely. While I feel like we will definitely have more of a strong long-term economy rather than a strong short-term economy. I think we definitely will have a weak short-term economy, and probably will have a strong long-term economy. So I definitely think the economy on a weaker side will be short-term, and the economy on a long-term side will be probably stronger. So moving on to key 7. So as of right now, let's take a pause. We're reaching about halfway on these keys. We're about to reach 13. We have a total of 4 for Biden's favor and 2 for Trump's favor. And we're not done, by the way. We have all these to fill out. And keep in mind, all Joe Biden needs to be reelected, and this is accurately predicted, by the way, is 8 or more filled in blue. So far, he has 4, so he's already halfway. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is reaching halfway as he needs 6, and he has 2 filled in so far. So, key 7, major policy change. According to Lichman, he is stating that Joe Biden made major policy changes to his administration. And based on my view, I just don't see it. I don't think Joe Biden made any major policy changes at all. I think where we are today is basically the same that we were about a year ago. So the incumbent president administration affect major changes in national policy. This key is true if the incumbent president redirects the course of government or enacts a major policy change that has broad effects on the country's commerce, welfare, or outlook. It does not matter whether the change is popular with the public. So that could Joe Biden could still make a major policy change, but it does not matter if the public disapproves of it or not. It just matters if he made a change or not. Nor does it matter what ideological mold it was cast from. So Lichtman implied that this key is in fact true, although he did change his press secretary speaker in the middle of his administration. I still don't think that's enough. And quote-unquote, Lichtman implied that that's already locked in for the White House party. All of those policy changes that Lichtman mentioned, plus all the executive orders overturning a lot of things Trump has done. So, with that being said, even though I slightly disagree with this, I don't think that there was much major policy change. I'm actually going to go with Lichtman here because Lichtman is right, by the way. Joe Biden has overturned a lot of things that Trump has done. For example, Joe Biden stopped construction at the border. Supposedly, actually, you can argue that there is still construction, but supposing Joe Biden stopped the construction at the border, which Trump was continuing on, which that is a major policy change, and there has been a lot more. So Joe Biden definitely changed a lot of Trump's policies, which is likely. I'm going to fill that in pretty likely for Biden's favor. So all Joe Biden needs to be reelected is 8 filled in blue. We currently have 5 filled in blue. So now moving on to key 8, no social unrest. Basically, we're talking about BLM riots as an example. So basically what this key means for key 8, no social unrest, is there's no sustained social unrest during the term. This key is false if there is widespread violent unrest that is either sustained or leaves critical issues unresolved by the time of the election campaign, which makes the voters worry that the fabric of the nation is coming apart, which actually happened in 2020 with the Trump administration. It's currently not happening now with the Biden administration. So as of right now, no social unrest with the Biden administration. That's likely going to be true. There is no BLM riots with the Biden administration. And this key would be false back in 2020 with the Trump administration because there was, social unrest with the Trump administration, but now there is no social unrest with the Biden administration, so this would be true. But if you were talking in 2020, this key 8 would actually be false. But we're implying this to be 2024, so currently there is no social unrest, and I would say we're still divided, even though there is no riots. We're still, divided at this point. But if this were to be the Trump administration, this key 8 would be filled in red. But I'm going to give that in Biden's favor. And then key 8, no scandal. This key would be false if there is a bipartisan recognition, meaning both on the left and right agreeing together that on a scandal of the current president, Joe Biden. Up at this point for key 9, there's definitely a scandal with Hunter Biden, which I don't know if it relates to Joe Biden himself. You can argue, some people are arguing that what's going on with Hunter Biden scandals are tied to Joe Biden, and other people are arguing otherwise, that Hunter Biden's drama does not imply with the current president Joe Biden, which you can argue both sides. I think scandals around Joe Biden's family, including Hunter, but when it comes to Joe Biden himself, I would not say so. So I think that's gonna lean in Joe Biden's favor. So that's already 7. All Joe Biden needs, there are 4 keys left, and all Joe Biden needs is 1 more key. And in order for Donald Trump to win this election, he needs 6 keys, and he is only at 2 so far. So we have 4 left. So Donald Trump at this point is gonna need every single key remaining that is filled in white that we have not filled in yet to go in his favor, which I don't know. So basically, moving on to key 10. No foreign military failure. That is in fact false, which we're gonna have this go in Donald Trump's favor. That is, I think, pretty much gonna go likely in Donald Trump's favor. Key 10 is false. So let me tell you why. It's saying that that there has been no foreign military failure with the Biden administration. That is completely false, and it's a lie. Let me tell you why. We had a failure in Afghanistan. you can, give Biden credit for actually getting them out of there, but he also costed the lives of 13 U.S. service members, which is a failure. So saying with Key 10, no military failure with the Biden administration, that's false. So that's already going into Donald Trump's favor. So that's another point for Trump. 3 points for Trump and 7 for Joe Biden. Remember, all Joe Biden needs to be reelected is 8, and all Trump needs to be elected is 6. So Trump's at 3, he needs 6, and Biden's at 7, he needs 8. So Joe Biden is closer. So Key 10 is false. There was foreign military failure. And now moving on to Key 11. Major foreign military success. That is also false. That's going into Donald Trump's favor. I'm going to pretty much lean that for Donald Trump. That's already 4 keys for Trump and 7 for Joe Biden. All Trump needs to be elected president in 2024 is 6 keys. He's at 4. So Trump needs 2 more keys and Joe Biden needs 1. So we have 2 keys remaining. Donald Trump needs both of them, and he will be, in fact, elected president, according to my opinion, in 2024. And Joe Biden needs 1 of the 2 keys remaining to be elected. So Key 11 is completely false. There was no major foreign military success. We are losing in Ukraine. I mean, obviously, you can argue Russia is, in fact, losing because they were going to take Ukraine within weeks, and they haven't. It's been years. So obviously, Russia is having unsuccessful advances in Ukraine. So you can argue that Joe Biden has military successes just like in Ukraine, but the military success in Ukraine, I would say, is not really a military success, as he is dumping money away from the American people, as some Republicans are arguing Joe Biden should use the money that we're sending to Ukraine on the southern border. So I just don't think there is, in fact, major foreign military success with the Biden administration. There just is not. So basically, what this question, Key 11 and Key 10 and 11, really both of them are asking, is are there any foreign policy successes with the Biden administration? And there, in my opinion, there is, in fact, no success when it comes to foreign policy with the Biden administration. And in fact, I graded Joe Biden's first term in office recently, about a week ago. I made a video on that. And I graded Joe Biden very low when it comes to foreign policy. And basically 10 and 11 tied together. 10 and 11 is asking you, is Joe Biden's foreign policy a failure or is it a success? And I'm telling you right now it's a failure. Because he is using money that is going to Ukraine that he could very well be spending that on the southern border right here. And Joe Biden also had military failure with Afghanistan. So that's already 2 points that I'm telling you. So yeah, when it comes to foreign policy, that's a mess for Joe Biden. And then moving on to Key 12, we have 2 left. Donald Trump needs both of them to be elected president, and Joe Biden just needs 1 of the 2 remaining. Key 12, charismatic incumbent. What this means is basically the incumbent party candidate is charismatic or a national hero. Which, I mean, I would not consider Joe Biden a national hero at this point. A charismatic candidate has an extraordinary persuasive or a dynamic personality that gives them a very broad appeal, which I don't think other nations are looking at Joe Biden and saying, wow, he's, this awesome president. So I think this Key 12 is actually going to be false. I think it's likely false. So actually, let's hear Lichman's take on Key 12. Lichman labeled Biden as uncharismatic for the 2020 election. He said Biden is a, quote unquote, Biden is a decent, empathetic person, but he's not inspirational or charismatic. Meaning, I am actually agreeing with Lichman. Lichman is implying that Key 12 is in fact false. And I agree with Lichman. So that's another point for Donald Trump. Keep in mind, Trump is very close to being elected president with these keys. We have 1 key remaining. And Donald Trump, in fact, needs 6 keys in his favor. He needs 6 keys filled in red. He currently has 5, and there's 1 remaining. And Joe Biden needs 8 keys filled in blue. There's only 7 keys filled in blue. So it ultimately comes down. By the way, this is a very close election. It ultimately comes down to the last and final key. Whatever Key 13 goes to, that president is going to be elected president. So if we fill in Key 13 red, Donald Trump is elected president in 2024. If we fill in Key 13 blue, Joe Biden is elected president in 2024. But ultimately, this is very close. Donald Trump is at 5 keys. Joe Biden is at 7 keys. So 2024 is going to be very close. And we can guarantee that. I can tell you right now, 2024 is guaranteed to be close, no matter who the president is in 2024. The outcome of 2024 is going to be a close election. Whether Donald Trump is president, he's barely going to win narrowly. Whether Joe Biden wins in 2024, he's barely going to win narrowly. So no matter who wins in 2024, that candidate that wins in 2024 is narrowly going to win, barely. So it's going to be close either way. So basically, Key 13, this ultimately basically determines who wins. And basically what Key 13 is ultimately saying or suggesting is that the challenging party, keep in mind the challenging party is not Joe Biden. Key 12 was Joe Biden. Key 12 is asking if Joe Biden was a charismatic incumbent, which was false, which went into Donald Trump's favor. Now what Key 13 is asking is not if Joe Biden is a charismatic incumbent. Key 13 is asking if the challenger, which in this case is Donald Trump, whether Donald Trump is basically uncharismatic. Lichman's take on this. Lichman labeled Trump as uncharismatic. He said, quote unquote, Trump is a great showman, but he only appeals to a narrow slice of the American people. Meaning, what he's basically saying is that Donald Trump only appeals very well, strongly with the Republican base. Donald Trump does not, in fact, do well with independents, which is basically Donald Trump. If Donald Trump were to be elected in 2024, he would have to do very well with the independent support. And what Lichman is applying with Key 13 is Donald Trump only appeals strongly with the Republican base, and Donald Trump does not appeal very well with the independent base. So, with that being said, I think this is leanly going to be true in Biden's favor, meaning Biden wins in a very close one. So we have 5 keys filled in red in Trump's favor, and we have 8 keys filled in blue for Biden's favor. Keep in mind, Biden needed 8 or more keys to win the election, and I gave him 8. Keep in mind, Donald Trump needed 6 or more keys to win the election. I gave him 5, so Donald Trump was 1 key away from winning the election. So I have Donald Trump barely losing, and this actually implies, and this ties to my actual presidential prediction. I had Biden winning by around 4 or 7 electoral votes above 270. So I think 2024 is going to be very close. So Biden wins in a very close one, by the way. He needed 8, he barely got 8. And Donald Trump needed 6, he barely got under 6 at 5. So Donald Trump was 1 key away from being elected in 2024. So 2024 is going to be very close. And like I mentioned earlier, no matter who the winner is, whether it's Biden or Trump, they are narrowly going to win because we have 2 unpopular presidents going up against each other, meaning turnout will be lower than it was in 2020. So there you guys go. Let me know if you agree with these keys that I filled out in red and blue. Let me know if you agree with them. And yeah, I have 5 keys for Trump and 8 for Joe Biden. And I have Biden barely being reelected and a close one, narrowly. And a close one. So let me know if you agree with the keys I have filled out. And go ahead, try these 13 keys tracker yourself. And let me know what you think about these keys. Let me know in the comment section your opinions on the keys I filled out on your screen right now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more analysts on 2024 election and the Republican primaries as well. And we are on the road to 400 subscribers. We are currently at 378 on the making of this video, so get me to 400. Thank you everyone for watching.